1991, the United States is at war. An army disproportionately of people of color is fighting people of color in the Persian Gulf. President Bush calls this a defining moment in history. He says this war is necessary to bring us to a new world order. Ambassador Perkins, you're with the State Department.
In this new world order, I think I'd go farther than the president did and simply say that it means for African Americans a chance to, first of all, take a leadership role. This new world order will present us with problems unheard of in energy, in communications, health delivery services, and just enough food.
This is bumper sticker politics on the part of the Bush administration. With all due respect to my friend, Ambassador Perkins, I think we want to say that to disguise real public understanding of what will be a regrettable war, a war into which we're pouring $500 million to $1 billion a day when we can't find money for our cities, we can't find money for education, a war that may claim, when the ground war begins, up to 30,000 lives a month, a war of which Americans have no understanding.
It's a rather difficult question.
That's why we're here.
It puts the world in a difficult situation because as long as there was another force to counter Western power, it enabled liberation movements to do their work in Southern Africa.
The terminology that you used, third world and non-aligned, I think there's a real problem when a people defines itself in terms of what they're not white, not aligned, outside the real world. And I hope that in the future we learn from the past and not carry a conception of ourselves as defined in terms of someone else into that future, because I think there's absolutely no hope, if that is the case, for mobilizing as a group to do group work.
To start with what you asked previously about New World Order, I think first we should put our finger on where that term comes from. The last person to use that term was Adolf Hitler. And it's interesting to me that we don't hear it again until the reunification of Greater Germany, and now the emergence of Germany and Japan, who were supposed to be our enemies, who 45 years later we now find in charge of the economic world, and the United States functioning really as a kind of hired gun. And all the
one is that Africans globally have not had the kind of instruments that help us to interject ourselves effectively into international affairs. Part of what we hope is that as we move toward the end of the 20th century, that Africans will see themselves as a world people, as a global people, and that we'll see ourselves in relationship to one another.
I guess earlier to your question about where we will be in the year 2040, but saying it's going to depend on what we do. And I think...
Well, that's the question. Why aren't we doing more? Or are we doing enough in your view?
No. And I think that we will begin to do more as we begin to appreciate how all of us, that's those who are educated, those who are not, those who have jobs or escaped during the 1960s and 70s, and those who did not begin to appreciate that we all are in a struggle together, and it's going to require that all of us work to make sure that we affect the government. I've heard a lot of complaints.
We have to do something about the overrepresentation of African Americans on the front lines of war, and their underrepresentation in the boardrooms and in the halls of government. We have to reverse that long-standing historical fact. And what we can do about it is to help the young people who will become adults. That is certain. There are no Peter Pans in real life. We have to give them the help.
It's fought by
the poor, those who don't have the education. And there are more than 50% of minorities fighting that war today. There are not more than 50% of minorities in management positions in corporate boardrooms in the corporate corridors.